Nightline is proudly sponsored by Ansett Australia, one of the world's great airlines, and Mobil, looking after tomorrow today.
Celebrations continue after Sydney's Olympic victory. 5 Australian soldiers killed in a Malaysian road accident. And Russia's secret diamond stash, enough to flood the market and send prices plummeting.
From National 9 News, this is Nightline with Jim Whaley.
Good evening. Sydney is still basking in the glow tonight of the city's successful bid for the year 2000 Olympics. It was a long campaign, especially unnerving over the past few days, as Beijing firmed as the favourite. But when it came to the crunch, Sydney sneaked in by 2 votes. Robert Penfold reports from Monte Carlo.
The 89 voting Olympic delegates filed back into the stadium. They knew, the audience looked for hints. The Premier sought the reassurance of bid leader Rod McGeouch's arm. Then IOC President Juan Antonio Samaranch opened the envelope.
The winner is Sydney, Australia.
Premier John Fay led the outburst of pure joy mixed with no small measure of relief. 3 years of work, and now the payoff.
We're just all thrilled.
So it's been coming for a long, long time, because you can wish for all you want. You've still got to make it work.
I think we campaigned well, but I think in the end the popularity of Australia really got us there.
Sydney Lord Mayor Frank Sartor and Australian Olympic President John Coates were called up on stage to sign the Olympic bid document. It was the sweetest of victories for Prime Minister Keating, who now has a new vision of Australia at the turn of the century.
Well, I think it'll be a great confidence builder for the country to think that Australia can be taken seriously in an international pageant like the Olympics.
Right down to the wire, there were those scare stories that the IOC just couldn't ignore the emerging giant of China. But they were all wrong. They have judged Sydney on what it has to offer now, not on what Beijing is promising in years to come.
Across the hall, the confident Chinese delegation was stunned. They were sure they had the numbers, the emotion flowed. Now they would have to live by their promise to try again another time. It was a reward at the end of a day that began with Sydney presenting its case one last time to IOC delegates. Our secret weapon, 11-year-old Tanya Blanco.
You may be asking why an 11-year-old girl is speaking to you today.
So tonight she was there too in all her innocence.
It's undescribable, I can tell you.
The vote was close, uncomfortably close. 45 to China's 43. Istanbul went out first, followed by Berlin. China won the first 3 rounds. Then, with Manchester finally eliminated, 8 of their 11 votes came our way. One more vote for Beijing, and it would have been a draw. So it would then have depended on the casting vote of Mr. Samaranch, known for his desire to bring China out of the political wilderness. Tonight, a party for the 100 or so Sydney supporters here. Monaco's Prince Albert dropped in to say congratulations. As the singing continued, plans were already underway to get the team back to Australia for the real party in Sydney, the world's newest Olympic city.
When the decision was announced, Sydney cheered itself hoarse, then let its hair down. Mark Barlin reports on today's celebrations.
It took just one word to convert this to this. And Sydney let the world know it had heard, so loudly that everything else was drowned out for hours to come.
We're just so excited.
We've got it. We've done it, yes.
Well, I threw my Motorola straight into the ocean, and I think I'll be docked a day's pay, but...
That was a shame. He could have called the Olympic Stadium to catch up on events there. Or the Institute of Sport in Canberra, where the athletes with most to gain showed they knew it. With daylight, the dawning of a realisation about the enormity of the task ahead. Massive construction to be undertaken. The bill will run to $1.7 billion. The return to the Australian economy estimated at 4 times that. for the state's dormant building industry, a much-needed wake-up call.
We've had a lot of projects that have been put on hold pending this news, and this certainly will give a boost to confidence in the industry and obviously to industry generally.
As many as 20,000 building jobs will be created, tens of thousands of others in related industries. Industrial harmony has been central to the success of Sydney's bid. Work at Homebush Bay is both ahead of schedule and under budget. But with 7 years to go before the Games commence, building unions aren't making any promises about the future.
Well, there'll be a need to ensure that there's proper agreements regulating wages and working conditions and ensuring that employers comply with their obligations. But if the government acts in a positive and constructive fashion, the good that is necessary will prevail.
But all those issues seem a long way away tonight. Sydney again draining towards the water, this time at Darling Harbour, to keep the euphoria flowing. Mark Barlin for Nightline.
Well, Sydney's won the Games, but now they've got to build the playgrounds. The work is already underway and big dollars are being spent on venues. Sharon Gadella reports on the progress.
At Homebush Bay today, the workers were given the day off, but for the world's media, plans for the 2000 Games were on show.
You can see the full arena.
14 of the 36 sporting venues will eventually be located here. The $300 million world-class athletics stadium and aquatic centre due for completion next year.
Just a great complex.
The timetable for the remaining projects is still to be decided, but among the priorities, a velodrome, baseball complex, gymnastics coliseum and an 80,000-seat Olympic stadium. Just what Sydney needed, with talk of even our league grand final being transferred to Brisbane.
Now that we've got the Games, we go into Olympic mode, so it'll be all go out here at Homebush.
All venues will be within 30 minutes of Olympic Park. At Penrith Lakes, the rowing course already taking shape. Darling Harbour will host basketball, boxing and weightlifting. Moore Park the football. Rushcutters Bay the focus for yachting. New facilities are planned for both Eastern Creek and Holsworthy. For the first time, just one Olympic village will be built. 5 minutes from the main stadium. It will eventually be sold off as housing. Sharon Gadella for Nightline.
For every winner, there have to be losers. In this case, Beijing, Berlin, Manchester and Istanbul. The Chinese had staked a lot on their bid and consequently were the most disappointed. Manchester too was thinking it had a good chance but took it on the chin. Jodie Weatherup reports on the international reaction.
Beijing.
At first they thought they had it. But the reaction was to a list of final contenders with Beijing read out first. The initial excitement only sharpened the disappointment of defeat. The government had promised the Games would help open China to the West, a move that, with a market of 1 billion people, appealed to multinational companies. But politics seems to have played a bigger role in the decision than economics. China's human rights record wasn't forgotten. And the authorities' first reaction was to seal off Tiananmen Square to the public. In the longer term, China's motivation to open up to the rest of the world may have been lost with this bid.
There is a risk that it could turn China inwards.
It was the second attempt for Manchester, and the loss was keenly felt.
You can't help getting a little bit emotional about it, you know? I mean, it's just, you know, like I say, it's just a shame that we didn't get it.
Losing by more votes than last time, not all supporters were in the mood for a consolation drink.
I'm not having any. I'm very disappointed tonight. I shall go to bed quite sober.
Manchester's spare votes were crucial in clinching Sydney's narrow win over Beijing, offering some comfort to locals.
Obviously disappointed, but the best of luck to Sydney.
A bit gossip, but we're not bothered as long as Beijing didn't get it.
Sydney.
A mixed reaction in Berlin, some Germans with economic concerns happier that Sydney won. For the vanquished, though, not all is lost. There's always 2004. And Manchester and Beijing are already thinking about another bid. Jodie Weatherup for Nightline.
After the break, the crash involving Australian soldiers in Malaysia and a treatment that offers new hope to arthritis sufferers.
Lost something?
Might have.
But you've lost your ballot pack.
Actually, I don't think I got one.
Call the ballot hotline. They'll send you another.
I would, if I knew the number.
It's been in all the press ads. It's even been in the TV commercials. 008 062 333. Your phone. Your choices.
Ballot closes October 1st.
Fresh from the streets of Europe. The dirt tracks of Western Australia. And the road of Athens. The Salika Trophy Edition. $2,500 worth of rally bred extras at no extra cost. Race into your Toyota dealer. The disease of the over 30s.
No, I'm not on an ego trip.
The affairs, the glamour, the adventure. A user's guide to midlife crisis.
This is what it's all about.
Also the children who look like angels sentenced to a life of never growing up. Sunday on 60 Minutes.
5 Australian soldiers have died in a road crash in Malaysia. The men, in the last month of their tour of duty, were returning from training exercises when their truck collided with a local bus.
First pictures in from Malaysia show the wreckage in which the soldiers were killed. The 5 young men who died were in the back of this military truck. 3 other soldiers were injured. They were out on a routine movement at 10 o'clock last night when the accident happened on the southern tip of Malaysia, 600 kilometres from their base.
As they were travelling, they got involved in an accident with a local bus, which resulted in the tragic incident where 5 soldiers were killed.
Among the dead, Lance Corporal Darren O'Rourke of Sydney and Corporal Christopher Burnett of North Balwyn, Victoria. Also killed Sergeant Ian Rutherford of Queensland, Corporal Darren Murphy and Corporal Paul Whiffen, both of Sydney. All were from the 5th 7th Battalion based at Sydney's Holsworthy Barracks. Today the men's colleagues were trying to accept such a senseless loss.
One of those tragic accidents that can occur anywhere in the world, be it Australia or overseas, is just a tragedy.
The soldiers were sent to Malaysia as part of a regular training program. The Australian Army has been running there for more than 20 years. Their tour of duty was almost complete. They were due to return home next month. Tonight, an investigation into the crash has begun. The bodies of the 5 soldiers will be returned home next week for a military funeral. Daniel Blyde reporting for Nightline.
A Melbourne librarian was among the survivors of yesterday's train crash, which killed 47 people in the American state of Alabama. Carolyn Frank escaped unscathed when the train derailed as it crossed a river near the city of Mobile. She said the carriage in front of hers was an inferno. It's believed the crash was caused by a river barge which hit the bridge and buckled the rails 12 minutes before the train came along. Former Philippines First Lady Imelda Marcos faces an 18-year jail sentence after being convicted of corruption by a Manila court. Prosecutors claim she and her late husband fleeced the country of more than $10 billion as they fled the Philippines during the 1986 People Power Rebellion. Mrs. Marcos is free on a bond and planning an appeal. The Russian parliament is still toughing it out, continuing to defy President Boris Yeltsin's order to disband. But just a short time ago, Yeltsin tightened the screws, ordering armed volunteers guarding the parliament to hand over their guns. The move follows an attack by gunmen on a military headquarters in Moscow overnight, in which 2 people were killed.
The president's order has immediately heightened tension around the White House. This morning, opposition supporters were no longer carrying weapons in full view, but small squads of volunteers were still forming and pledging to defend the building at all costs. Some of these men admitted to us that they had access to firearms, and one threatened to shoot our crew if we filmed him. The retired colonel leading the group was defiant.
We are ready to lose people's lives and our lives to protect Soviet power.
Inside the building, some guards are still carrying automatic rifles. Yeltsin's order does not spell out how the disarming process is to be achieved, except to say that those refusing to hand over their weapons will be reported for prosecution. A short time ago, Yeltsin's interior minister announced that he was sending reinforcements to surround the parliament, but that the time for what he called decisive action had not yet come. There are still strong reasons for Boris Yeltsin to be cautious, to do nothing that would turn protesters into martyrs. But this morning's presidential order may mean that Yeltsin now has to do something or risk losing much of the credibility he has recently gained.
An affliction that spoils the later years of many older people, and the lives of a few younger people as well, is rheumatoid arthritis. But researchers in America are investigating a new drug that could make a world of difference.
For the thousands of Australians coping with rheumatoid arthritis, just walking can be painful. While current medication usually treats symptoms, now a method of treating the cause is reported. Using a form of collagen taken orally, the American Journal of Science says all patients on the trial had symptoms reduced by 30%.
I find it both extremely encouraging and startling. Very much a major shift in thinking about how we treat the disease.
Before collagen 2 years ago, Lynn Sutley was told she'd be soon in a wheelchair. She's now doing advanced aerobics, her rheumatoid arthritis in remission.
And I don't expect it to come back.
Researchers say the collagen has no side effects and works by shutting down the cell which destroys joints. They also warn the collagen is not the type used in cosmetic treatment. The American researchers now need to test the new arthritis medication on a larger group and expect it to be available in 2 years. Cheryl Taylor for Nightline.
And when we come back, Russia's astounding underground treasure, bunkers full of diamonds.
How does a design team wrap up a unique V6 24-valve engine into a two-door coupe? We have put ourselves into this car. The new UNOS 30X V6, the result of an obsession with perfection.
If you don't believe you get bags more flavour in every Allen's bag, test them for yourself.
Allen's snakes alive. Snake here. Monty. Oops.
You get bags more flavor with Allen's.
Well, I'm so tired of crying, but I'm out on the road again. I'm on the road again.
Robin Williams.
I love this guy!
Don't talk me public again.
Jeff Bridges.
If I could help him in some way. How come you never asked that girl for a date, huh?
They were made for each other.
Optus brings you The Fisher King. Premieres Sunday, 8:30 on 9.
Diamonds are forever, and that's the problem. They're the hardest substance known to woman and don't wear out. So it's not as though you have to buy a new one every year. More diamonds are dug up each year than can possibly be sold, making strict marketing a necessity to keep prices high. The De Beers Company controls the flow, dictating to diamond mining countries how many gems they can sell. But the Russians, desperate for foreign earnings, now want a bigger share of the market, and they're ready to play tough to get it. Tonight's World Focus looks at how the Russians are threatening to go their own way, dig into their enormous diamond reserves, and sell them independently.
The nation produces 1/4 of the diamonds that go on the world market each year. Sitting on a vast deposit, it is one of Russia's greatest sources of untapped wealth.
Russia earns an annual $1 billion from the sale of rough diamonds.
Yevgeny Bichkov is director of the state committee that sorts and stores Russia's diamonds.
The diamond industry is of great importance for Russia.
But there's a problem. For the last 34 years, the South African-based De Beers cartel has controlled how many diamonds Russia can sell, and at what price. In 1990, the old Soviet Union signed a 5-year, $5 billion agreement to sell 95% of its rough diamonds to De Beers. But now, some top Russian officials want to break that agreement. De Beers rejects letting Russia sell more of its rough diamonds directly on the world market.
That's not one that we will look on at all sympathetically, because it would undercut the whole basis of discipline which is necessary to run the single-channel marketing system that we have.
Officials inside the Kremlin are desperate to get as much for their diamonds as possible to help bail them out of their economic troubles. And as a threat, they're being as aggressive with their huge stockpile of diamonds as they ever were with their nuclear arsenal. Russia is known for mining large quantities of big stones with few imperfections. A 19-carat diamond like this sells for more than $65,000. Meanwhile, back in the 3-carat room...
In this room, they sort about 100,000 diamonds.
Tomorrow, another 100,000 diamonds?
Every day, and not only in this room.
Bitchkov also took us to see Russia's massive secret stockpile of diamonds in a complex 30 feet below the streets of Moscow. The clear message, the Russians have the means to shake De Beers' control of the world market, affecting the price of diamonds for consumers everywhere. We passed through only one security checkpoint. And then we're led through a series of hallways, each lined with vaults. They've never before let any outsider, even De Beers, see their stockpile or given any hint of its value.
These are diamonds.
All of those bags, all the way to the ceiling, are diamonds?
Yes.
And how many other rooms do you have like this?
Oh, about 28 rooms.
Bitchkov wouldn't say, but we were later told there were 33 million carats of rough diamonds in this room alone. It is estimated that you have 100 million carats of rough diamonds in your stockpile.
No, that figure is wrong.
More?
Perhaps more, perhaps less. We'll have to agree that I don't know.
You have no idea, or you just won't tell me?
Both.
So this is one of the last great secrets of Russia?
It's a secret for any organization storing diamonds.
Surrounded by all this wealth, we couldn't resist asking Bitchkov if we could look inside one of the bags. For security reasons, 2 women had to open it. Inside, 6,000 carats in 3-carat diamonds. I think when you consider that this is just one box and one bag, and you have a whole room full of bags, you Russians have a great many diamonds.
I feel that this wealth ought to be put to better use. It should be profitable for both of us.
We thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And I will return the diamonds.
Это не сувенир.
No souvenirs?
No.
But Russia's diamonds are no laughing matter for De Beers. Last December, the company said its stockpile was worth $3.7 billion, or about what De Beers sells on the world market in a year. Just the thought that Russia has an even bigger stockpile could send diamond prices tumbling. How big is the Russian stockpile of diamonds?
I have absolutely not only no certainty, but I have no idea. I think Mr. Bitchkov is much better placed than I am to answer that.
Would you be surprised if I were to tell you that the Russians, specifically Mr. Bitchkov, took us in to the stockpile?
Yes, I would be surprised if it is the last of the great state secrets. You were allowed to film that, were you?
Mm-hmm.
Good, well, I look forward to seeing your films.
Still to come tonight, the latest finance and weather and the countdown to the AFL and League Grand Finals.
The Australian sun's hot enough to fry an egg. And it soon cooks ordinary house paint as well. But what'll scientists beat the sun with a finish that lasts years longer? What'll Solar Guard? Solar Guard's blended from pigments and polymers so superior, they block out UV rays to make it last for donkey's years. And it washes up in water. So now the sun can fry your eggs, but not your paint. What'll Solar Guard? What'll they think of next?
Over the years, there's been some great movie tunes. Now, Movie Mania gives you 20 of the best on the one compact disc.
Guess you better slow that Mustang down.
Movie Mania is the original tracks by the original artists. Over 1 hour of box office blockbusters. The best tracks from the greatest movies. It's pure Movie Mania.
The dream, to create an engine that achieves optimum power and superior fuel economy. The challenge, to test our theory in the grueling research laboratory of Formula One racing. The result, Honda VTEC, a range of revolutionary engines that achieves the perfect balance between fuel economy, performance, and the environment for every driver. Honda VTEC. Experience the future of motoring today.
It's work experience on Murphy Brown.
We stopped protecting her and let her attempt to do the job.
That's cruel. It's sadistic.
Let's do it.
Followed by Love and War.
And the woman has ice water in her veins.
Comedy, Monday night on Channel 9.
In sport, Australia's off to a great start in the Davis Cup semi-final against India. Jason Stoltenberg won the first singles rubber against Leander Paes. Then Wally Masur gave Australia a 2-0 lead with victory over Ramesh Krishnan. Melbourne's getting itself wound up for the AFL Grand Final. 85,000 people brought the centre of the city to a standstill today to cheer the players who'll fight it out tomorrow.
It was bedlam in the central business district, fans struggling to find a vantage point even an hour before the parade started. Among the participants, none was more excited than 7-year-old Matthew Bell, who won a competition to ride with Brownlow medalist Gavin Wanganeen. And what are you going to say to him?
Ask him for his autograph.
All AFL clubs were represented, Collingwood receiving the usual welcome. It was all a yawn for Bomber fans until their hero arrived. Kevin Sheedy took his family along for the ride, while Paul Salmon welcomed autograph hounds. Then it was Carlton's turn. Led by David Parkin, who had a simple message for Bomber supporters. Then followed the players, among them Greg Williams, chasing that elusive premiership. From the hype of the parade, the players walked into this. The atmosphere here is absolutely sensational, with more than 10,000 people cramming Melbourne Central. The noise was deafening as the opposing captains held the Premiership Cup aloft, and players from both sides piled in for their last appearance before tomorrow's game.
I was quite moved by the number of people who saw fit to recognise the players of both sides. Just fantastic.
The start to the day was a little less hectic, with several thousand people lining up for a free footy breakfast in the city square. But out Moonee Ponds way, things are really hotting up with the Battle of the Butchers. Darren Linton for Nightline.
Sydney's won the race to host the Olympics. Now, to top off a great week, they'd like to bring the Rugby League Premiership back home. And St George, after a week off, are feeling up to the task. Peter Sterling with the story.
The Dragons left for their eastern suburbs camp at lunchtime. The contrast with last year's campaign summed up in 2 words.
Better prepared.
From experience, I know the foundations of a grand final win are often in the feelings of a previous loss.
I can remember that feeling very well. It wasn't something that I want to repeat.
A structured attack is no restriction on St George's flair and creativity, as shown by this against Canberra.
So is Walford, so is Potter. Potter, he scores!
But defence wins grand finals, and in their last 4 games, the Dragons have not conceded a first-half try.
They'll hold the ball against him, that's a turnover.
We know if we go into the game and we tackle like we have done in the last few weeks, we'll just need to score tries to win, and that's been no trouble for us.
What Brad and his teammates need to watch is Brisbane's capacity to score when they look tired and nothing appears to be on.
Somebody stop him! He'll run out of the stadium!
No matter how tired they are, they're going to give it their 110%, and I'm not going to let that into my mind that they might be a little fatigued.
Almost 70% of major semi-final winners earning the week off have gone on to win the grand final. That statistic favours St George. Brisbane can never be written off, but I believe their preparation and the break will get the Dragons home.
In finance, the Olympic news helped push the Australian share market up 18 points today. In Tokyo, the Nikkei rose 132 points. In London tonight, the FT 100 is 2 points higher in morning trading. Gold has risen $3.20 an ounce to $357.25 US. And in European trading tonight, the Australian dollar is buying 65.27 US cents, 1.08 Deutschmarks, 69 yen and 43p. The national weather, and there's a high stretching from Perth to Victoria, a low-pressure trough near the South Australia-West Australian border, a weak low near Darwin, and a cold front heading for Tasmania. The forecasts: fine in Darwin and Brisbane, fine as well in Sydney, Canberra, Melbourne, Hobart and Adelaide, and a fine day for Perth as well. And that's the latest news this Friday night from all of us here at Nightline. I hope your team wins over the weekend. Good night.
Nightline was proudly sponsored by Mobil, looking after tomorrow today, and Ansett Australia, one of the world's great airlines. Tonight, 8:30, more fun than you can handle.
The Fat Jack!
Bill Murray.
Got something in a low-rise bikini?
Harold Ramis. In the all-time comedy favorite.
This isn't what you think.
Stripes, tonight, 8:30 on Channel 9.